storage units that people would
Yeah.
probably pay top dollar to get their hands on.
Yeah. Michelle actually made me move all the stuff out of that particular unit, move it somewhere else. Like she went in and then separated it all and put
Yeah.
it in new bins, and then I had to go pick it all up and go move it to somewhere else because she was worried somebody was going to break in and steal it. But,
Yeah. Well, hopefully
it would have
you
helped
can-
me. It would have helped me out. I wouldn't have had to deal with it.
It's less that you
I'm
could.
like, I'm not that attached to it. And she goes, well, what about the kids? And I'm like, I mean, what are they going to do with it? They go like, oh, Dad used to wear this. Put it in the closet or put it in the attic.
Yeah.
And,
It's like my when I got out of the military, Amy like kept one of my uniforms or something, or a couple of my uniforms, and I'm like, I'm a Goodwill guy. Let's just take it all to Goodwill, you know. And she's like, man, this means so much. And I was like, we don't have kids. Who wants my old uniform? I was like, that makes no sense to me. I was like,
I've been like 3 years in this process, right? And we put all this stuff up, you know, like, oh, well, you know, we'll do this with it, we'll do that with it. You know, I told you I just sold my ranch, right?
Yeah.
I sold that. So I have a Connex out there that is full of stuff. And my realtor come up to me yesterday. He goes, hey, what do you want to do with that storage locker you got out there? And I was like, I don't care, man. Just, you know.
it comes with the place.
Yeah, he goes, what's in there? And I was like, there's probably a really nice generator in there. There's all that furniture you were talking about that was in the TV room. I said, all that's in there. I said, there's tools and stuff. I was like, you know what? Just get one of your, you know, send some of your guys that are on the crew that's been working on the house, send them out there. They can have it. And he was like, I said, I'm not attached to anything. I hadn't used it. I hadn't been in that storage locker in 3 years.
What's the quote from Heat? It's like, you can't be attached to anything that you can't.
Oh,
like,
that you can't get up and move.
Yeah, within 15 minutes or something like that, if the heat gets on you.
I'd be a hell of a criminal. I could disappear quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't need anything other than, you know.
So my wife likes to hold on to things. So whenever she's like out of town or something,
You got to sneak around.
Yeah, we do Goodwill trips and everything. It's usually about every couple of months she'll text me, "Hey, have you seen this?" I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? What? Huh? I didn't even know we had that. Yeah. You didn't take it to Goodwill, did you? I really needed that.
No,
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I'm not.
No, I don't.
I'm not attached to many things. There's like 3 or 4 material possessions in my life that are like,
Yeah.
if the house catches on fire, of course I'm grabbing, you know,
Yeah.
the wife, the dogs, and stuff. But there's like 3 or 4 things that actually mean something to
Yeah.
me that are in my house that I would want to grab. But even if I didn't grab those, it is what it is.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
But no,
I would make an effort to get probably my guns, but make sure everybody's safe.
we know enough people. You probably get those replaced. All mine, I don't have any guns. They're that boating accident. They're all at the bottom of the sea, man. I have 0 guns. The government does not need to come to my house to try to confiscate my guns. They were
Roger that.
They got lost in a boating accident.
Copy.
All right, so we were not going to talk about that at all, but talking about your old memorabilia, someone that was part of probably some of that memorabilia that's in that storage unit that was right there by your side at some point. Man, the great Paul Heyman.
Hall of Fame, man.
He got the phone call.
I think, you know what? Well deserved, too. Man, he is, not only has he got like a brilliant mind, like a brilliant wrestling mind, but man, even for as long as he's been involved in the business and around, he's still so passionate. And he's one of those guys, like Paul Bearer was the same way with me. Like when he was managing Brock, and obviously now he's managing, Roman Reigns. He is so invested in those guys and their well-being, their decision-making. And he was very instrumental, Paul. I mean, I didn't even know for somebody that's been in the business for as long as I have, I'm the most out of touch person with trends and how things are referenced. And,
Really?
yeah, really.
Man.
Like,
Never
I
knew
didn't
that
even
about
know
you.
there was a thing until like in the last, maybe the last 5 to 10 years that it was a thing to be a Paul Heyman guy. Like,
Really?
I did,
So I
yeah.
love Paul Heyman.
No,
I mean,
no. But there's like the guys that work for him, like with ECW.
Oh, you're talking about a guy that's been managed by Paul
manage
Heyman.
him, or that Paul's had his hands on. You're like, oh, he's a Paul Heyman guy, right? Like, and I was probably one of the originals,
Yeah.
not even really aware of it, because he managed. He was managing me when I went solo in WCW after Danny left. They put Paul with me, and he was so instrumental in like keeping me sane, really, because I was so frustrated there with what they were doing with me, and obviously the infamous meeting that I had with WCW's upper management, and he was such an advocate for me in the sense of getting me to Bruce, who would eventually get me to Vince and that whole thing. But he was a little better off than I was. Like, I wasn't making any money. A lot of times, he would just pick up the rental cars instead of us splitting it, or he'd help me out when he could. And but the biggest, obviously the biggest contribution on my part with him was just that connection to get me out of WCW and into just into an opportunity with WWEF, whatever.
What is that? What's that manager role like? I think it's always weird. Like, you look at a manager, like, what's his outside of the storytelling they can do outside that ring, and being able to, typically every single manager has to be really good on the mic and stuff like that, right? But what does it look like backstage? What is that relationship? It was a guy like a Paul Heyman. Did he feel like he was really my manager, like he was really my advocate? Was he that type of person even backstage?
Yeah. There's a lot of time, and Paul, if he's passionate about an idea, or his guy is passionate about an idea, I mean, he will flat out go to battle, right? I mean, and it's not his hill really to die on, but he will.
Yeah.
I mean, he truly is representing what they feel is the best move for where they're positioned, and not every manager is like that. Not every manager is not as invested as Paul.
Yeah.
Paul is. I mean, Paul can be brash, and he can say some things that ruffle your feathers, but overall, he's very smart about the business.
Did he have input on the matches, like for different things that would happen during the match? Like, let's say, you and Roman were going to wrestle, and you've got Paul is, Roman's guy or whatever, and you and Roman are going to sit down and have that conversation maybe before you go out, whether it's that morning or, leading up to the match. Does Paul sit down as well and put any input?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's totally invested.
Yeah.
And a lot of times too, he'll go and relay things that maybe like his guy doesn't want to do. Hey, what do you think about this? Paul earns his money, man. He does a really, really good job of advocating for his guys, and like I said, not everybody's that invested, but he'll fight and argue and try and get his point across and change people's minds, and You know, which is that's what you want. You know, as a talent sometimes, like you're trying to focus on. Okay, I have to focus on this match and whatever that might be. So it's nice to have somebody who is so knowledgeable of the business going in there and not necessarily say politicking, but being an advocate.
Yeah.
You know, I've used that word a couple times now, but you know, doing the dirty work kind of part of it. And you know, he's got the gift of gab. Another one of those guys that not quite as good as Vince, but he could sell quite a bit of ice to Eskimos.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Would a manager, whether it be Paul, whether it be a Cornette or a Paul Bear or whoever, was there moments where during the match maybe they saw something that was going on in the match and they put some type of input even during the match? Maybe you go outside into the ring and they come over there and they're maybe punching you, stomping you, whatever, and maybe they're helping turn the match a certain way. Maybe
I'm sure. I'm sure that's happened. I don't ever recall it happening with me, but I'm sure. Like, you know, there's just certain times, certain guys get in situations where they don't know what to do, and I think he would definitely be one of those guys. Like, okay, hey, you need to. You know, you need to bring it now. You need to get up there and bring it to him.
And I would imagine there's guys like Paul and Bear and Cornette and stuff that could stand outside that ring and see, you know, man, this match ain't going great.
Right. Right.
And those were the types of guys that could bring influence into a match and get the crowd, especially like a Cornette, right?
Yeah.
And a Paul Heyman, who are just heels beyond heels, you know, in their own right. Even if the Midnight Express was, you know, baby faces, Cornette could.
Oh, absolutely.
He was a heel no matter what, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I would imagine there was nights where they could look out in that crowd and the pop wasn't there. The match might not be going the way they think it should be going. It might not be just crisp. And they could do something to really turn it around.
Oh yeah,
on their own.
Yeah, guys like Cornette and Heyman and Heenan. I mean, they knew they know they know the product, and they know sometimes that they got how they can interject and, you know, bring more to when it needs to be. You know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like guys like that, Cornette, they've run territories, so they know every aspect of you know, the industry. So it's like, okay, you know, they're in a position where you can listen to them, and it's not like, you know, certain managers that have never taken bumps or never worked or had psychology, you know. But Paul had that, still has it, still passionate about it, you know. Paul has that unique ability to make you freaking hate him. Like he's just, it's just something about him. It is a gift that people just want to smack him.
I felt like the last couple of years, Paul Heyman has been a very instrumental part of keeping the storylines going for WWE in a positive direction, with maybe a little bit of the lack of kind of storytelling from some of the talent. He's been able to bring in some of that old school storytelling over the last few years that you could tune in just to see what Paul Heyman was going to do.
Yeah, he has that ability. I mean, with his facial expressions, like if he's got just a prime example, and this is the things that gets lost, just the example sometimes of he's going to have to tell you know, Roman something that Roman isn't going to want to hear.
Yeah.
You can see it in his face long before he says anything.
Yeah.
Right? That's storytelling.
And before he starts talking, you as the fan are on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, well, how is Roman going to react to whatever it is Paul's about to tell him? And then just the angst and the anxiety that Paul creates within his face, and the stuttering and the nervous dialect. And I mean, it's such a gift that you know, not everybody they know that they know he's different, but they don't sometimes they don't really understand what all he's doing, because it's so subtle sometimes, but it's so vital to the overall story that they're telling. I mean, and that's probably one of the key roles to being a great manager. It's not to you're not the steak,
Yeah.
but you might be some good mashed potatoes. I mean,
Why are most managers heels, you think?
well, I mean, because so sometimes there's elements to a talent that just they're not quite there. They're on the way, but they're missing certain they're just missing certain qualities that might hinder them. And then you have managers who can kind of fill those voids with the fact that, okay, you have this guy. Like, there's so many different stories. They're like, is this manager using this guy for his own benefit? Is this guy, they're accent pieces, and then some of them are just on different levels.
Yeah.
But you usually have heels managers. The babyface doesn't need help in a bad situation, right? I mean, that's the whole thing of being a babyface, is overcoming all obstacles.
Because your manager's always going to interfere in the match.
Yeah, you know at some point the manager is going to have a role.
Yeah.
It's going to give you that moment, that extra moment that you need to get your strength back, or after babyface has kicked your ass, or some way to distract or get the referee's attention. I mean, that's just wrestling 101, man.
I want to do a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Download Prize Picks and try it out for yourself. I love using Prize Picks when I'm watching UFC or the NBA or even college basketball. It makes the experience as a fan so much more entertaining to watch. Remember, you're not picking teams, you're picking players. So make sure to get on Prize Picks, use my code 6feet, or click the link in the description to get your first deposit and matched up to $100. Prize Picks.
Do you remember the first time you met Paul?
Have you lost Medicaid or CHIP? At healthcare.gov, 4 out of 5 customers can find a quality plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Enroll in a plan today at healthcare.gov. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and he was just as energetic. And
Where was it at? Do you remember?
I believe it was in Atlanta. I met him in Atlanta at TV. We used to do TV. What they called that place? I can't even remember what they called where we did TV in WCW. But that's where I met him. And, hey, baby, I'm your new referee. I mean, I'm your new manager. Oh, okay, all right. And, I mean, right out of the get-go, man, he was locked on to my hip, and
Yeah.
we traveled together. We did everything together, and and he was working the side channels trying to get me. He was working the side channels to get me in front of Vince. So he was. I guess I'd have got there maybe, but I think he helped accelerate the process.
I think everybody's got somebody that helps get them to a spot, right?
Right.
Like, I mean, I think that's no matter what. There's always people that are instrumental, in whether it's just introductions or whatever it might be.
Right.
Of course, you had to go out there and actually perform once you became the Undertaker. But a guy like Paul Heyman to step up and make those phone calls and be that, once again, advocate for you to try to get you in front of Vince and get you that meeting.
Yeah.
Says a lot about him, to where he could see a talent that maybe others didn't see,
Yeah.
or they didn't feel like you were that person.
Yeah, he saw the talent. Bruce saw the talent. WCW didn't quite see the talent.
Yeah.
And initially Vince didn't see the talent. But still, no, I'm very grateful for for that effort that he made to get me up there, and I'm really looking forward to his speech. I just think his thing is going to be so entertaining.
Yeah.
It's just going to be so.
It's gonna be good.
It's going to be good, and I guarantee it's there will be some aspect of his speech that enhances the match between for WrestleMania. I just
That's just how he is, isn't it?
It's how he is. He's always on. Like, you always have to look at, like, all right, are you like back then? Are you Paulie Dangerous or are you Paul Heyman? And then you realize, well, they're actually the same people.
Person,
That's why Paul Heyman is now Paul Heyman. But you have to kind of weed through it sometimes. But that's part of the. That's part of the beauty of Paulie.
And that's what makes him great. And that's what makes him maybe the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he's in the discussion, man. He has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, for the amount of people that he's helped and the things that he's done within the industry, how he came up. I think it's a great selection, and I'm really happy for him.
I'm interested in seeing continue what happens with the bloodline story and what happens at WrestleMania. I mean, I guess at some point Roman's got to lose, and if he does lose, what happens there? With
Interesting.
with Paul, and now you got The Rock in there, and I mean it's this. I feel like we're in, like 1999, 2000, 2001 all over again.
Yeah. That's Roman is champion so long because that storyline has been so freaking good.
Yes.
I mean, head and shoulders above anything else. I mean, if you just look back through the last 3 years of this thing, the ebb and flow of this story between with the twins and just everything, Brock coming back and the whole, I mean, it's just been so many layers to this. Yeah, eventually he's going to lose, and then that's going to be a whole nother interesting dynamic.
Yeah. I would like to see what Paul's move there is, and how The Rock plays in there. I see something there.
I don't know. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to imagine that The Rock, although he is now on the board of TKO, I don't know what even that means really.
Yeah.
But it's hard to imagine.
I know what that bank account means.
Well, yeah, there's that, but I don't know what it means as far as Rock being a talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know. I don't know the ins and outs of weekly booking. I don't care to know. I'm a fan now for the most part, and I try to watch the show as a fan more so than I'm on the outside looking in now. So it's not like somebody's calling me and thinking, hey, this is what's going to happen or this is what's going to go on. I don't know, but I can't see. I could be wrong, but I don't see Rock being long term.
Yeah. But God, he's added a lot of value.
Well, yeah. I mean,
it's been fun. So
there's eyes. There are eyes on the product that haven't been on the product in a while because he's on there, and the product right now, even before Rock came on, is just doing, I mean, killer business.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
But Rock has added that whatever ingredient it is to make it feel like we're in that
edge. It's called edge.
Yeah.
He's added an edge to it. Yeah.
And and because Rock has become a babyface in the real world now,
right.
For the last decade, 15 years, whatever, to where now it's like it feels good to see Rock as a heel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's coming out in his $500 shirts, and he's doing all that stuff, right? Like, just amazing stuff there, right? And I'm watching it and I'm looking at Paul Heyman just off to the side over here, and I'm going, where does this go?
Right.
Because wherever it goes, he's going to play a huge part in it.
Right.
And whatever happens on April 7th, I think is the second night of WrestleMania, whatever happens that night, I think Paul Heyman has a huge part to play in it. I think Rock has a huge part to play in it. And I think that with it being the weekend of Paul Heyman being inducted into the Hall of Fame, there's going to be, I'm not saying he's still in the show by any means, but you're going to know that Paul Heyman was there on that second night.
Yeah. No, there's layers to this stuff, man, and it's really good right now.
And I know you're big on Gunther. I would love to see Paul Heyman with him.
With Gunther.
I know it's a out in left field type of thinking, but I would love to. As young as he is, as good as he is, and as great of a heel as he is, his demeanor, his character, everything, I feel like lines up with a Paul Heyman.
Interesting.
When you find a deal on your favorite thing in the McDonald's app and order it, does that technically count as online shopping? Save money with the app. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's, prices may vary.
I feel
We'll
like
see
it
what
just
happens.
it's in that.
It's there, huh?
Yes, I believe that he could be. I mean, he checks the box. He checks every box, in my opinion, for a Paul Heyman guy.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just, but I don't think Roman's retiring anytime soon.
I'm not saying Roman's retiring. I'm just saying
I don't think he can have too many guys in his stable. Like, it doesn't work. There's too many egos there. But
well, all I'm saying is maybe Paul Heyman's not part of the bloodline. Maybe he's not part of it.
you think? Wow.
If he loses, Paul Heyman doesn't ride without a belt. There's titles wherever he goes, and if
You
Roman,
think Roman being Roman, like, gives him the boot, like, holds him
maybe
responsible?
Roman loses, Cody goes over, and Paul Heyman, something on that second night, he does something wrong in the eyes of Roman. He makes a mistake. Paul Heyman pulls his famous, he messes up, causes Roman the match. Rock is pissed at Paul. Rock is in the ear of his family going, this is the only dude standing in this ring that doesn't have the blood.
You've put a lot of thought into this, bro.
Literally over the last 3 minutes of this conversation.
It has all come to you.
Really, it has. But I'm
that's
sitting-
that's the cool part of being a fan, right?
Yeah, but I'm sitting there going, if Roman loses, Paul Heyman's the only person that doesn't have the blood, and he screws it up for Roman in Roman's eyes, and maybe he really does. It's Hall of Fame weekend. Paul's got to play a big part, in my opinion, of the match. And then if that happens and he gets the boot, and you look at the rest of the talent, who's Paul's next guy? I think Gunther checks the box. He's not going to go to a babyface, of course. He's not going to go, to Cody. Maybe Seth Rollins, but I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think
I don't think that's a good fit.
And I think, I don't know.
Interesting.
And then maybe Gunther, he maybe finally gets that shot at, Cody's beating him 2 years in a row at the Rumble. And I think Cody is the one that's eliminated him 2 years in a row now. So maybe Gunther goes and calls out Cody. And now you've got potentially a Paul Heyman in Gunther's corner. And maybe he starts a run for the title.
That's interesting, man. Well, I guess
I
we'll
don't
see
know.
what happens. Well, I don't either.
Think we're too high on Gunther. I don't know.
No, I don't.
I don't think we are.
I don't think we are.
But I'm enjoying the storyline right now, and I'm enjoying what Paul's doing. But I'm watching it, and I'm looking at The Rock is on the mic. Rock has got all the spotlight right now, and Paul's just sitting back here in that back corner. something's going to happen with Paul at WrestleMania.
Called your shot.
Something's going to happen.
You called your shot.
I've
All
called my shot.
Now I'm interested now.
I've called my shot.
I might actually go. So I can say I was there.
Well, you know what, man? I am very happy for Paul Heyman, and I know that you are.
Yeah.
And he gets to join a very exclusive group of individuals that you've gotten to be a part of.
And we'll have to hear about it from now until the end of time. Every time he does an interview, and, my name is Paul Heyman. I'm a Hall of Fame.
He's always going to put that on there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's always going to put that on there.
Oh yeah, that's got to. Yeah.
And hopefully there's another phone call that actually happens this year, and it should be for Michelle McCool. But I'm just gonna throw that out there every few episodes. That
So they've already named one woman,
yeah,
Bull Nakano, but I mean, if I start advocating,
yeah.
I
When's the
can't-
next time it's in Orlando?
I have no idea. It's in
Yeah.
Vegas next year. That's what I think. I think I've heard that.
I think I heard that too.
Good Lord.
Man, I love the Vegas.
You love the Vegas? What is that? I love the Vegas.
I love the Vegas.
I love the Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, last time you went to Vegas, you came back sick.
I had a really good time for the week I was there, though.
Yeah.
I got sick afterwards. You know.
Well, yeah,
It's,
the seedy places that you go is probably why you got.
I kind of want to go where the Super Bowl team, like the football team stayed. Like it's like 20, 30 miles away from, or like 20, 30 minutes away from the Strip.
Was that
But
Red Rock or something?
Yeah, it's like the Red Rock Resorts or something like that. It's like a Westin or
Isn't that
something.
where Dana? Isn't that where he gambles or something?
It's the only place they'll let him.
Do you want an easy way to create professional invoices? Try it free at skynova.com.
I watched a video this morning about him gambling, during the Super Bowl or whatever, where he literally took like bussing with the boys. One of them made 10 grand, one of them made 30 grand. That's what they wanted to win. They were like, hey, here's 10 grand. I'm willing to lose 10 grand. All I want to do is try to win 10 grand.
Yeah.
And he did it for them. He had their numbers. He made 60, and I guess Caesars still lets him gamble. And he went over to Caesars and took them for 150, he said.
Blackjack?
I think he plays blackjack, yeah. I know for certain that anytime you and I have sat down at a card table, we have never walked away with that, or I haven't. I have not seen either one.
No.
I've not seen you walk away with 150.
No. I mean, $1.50.
Yeah, maybe.
And that usually went to the waitress for a tip.
Yeah, I was excited. Gosh, it might have been just the first couple times I went. I won like $400 at 3-card poker. I have given that back so many times over now.
Yeah, man, it's just, if you don't go to now, like with me with like silly, like when I was at the Cosmo that night, man, I really wanted to sit down at a table.
Well, that was our goal. Let's
That
go
was our
play some
whole goal.
blackjack.
We went to the boxing match. Let's go play some blackjack, and that wasn't going to happen.
The problem is now for you to be able to go do that, you've got to be in a room that it's going to be, first of all, stupid money. You
Yeah.
have to sit down and do that,
Yeah.
right? Or they bring, a lot of times they'll bring a table up to your room if you're a celebrity or something like that. But that kind of takes away from it.
Takes
it's
away from
fun.
all, that's when you have a problem.
If,
If you're bringing a
yeah.
table up to
if
your
I'm
room,
bringing a table up to the room,
yeah, you got issues, man.
yeah. But it does take away from it because it's not necessarily about winning the money. What's fun is sitting there BSing, smoking
Yeah.
cigars,
Yeah.
have a drink, play some
The
cards.
atmosphere. It's the
yeah,
atmosphere.
it's the atmosphere. Playing
Yeah.
cards with your buddies. And that's where sometimes I know for you wish that you could maybe flip a switch to where
Yeah.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
people don't recognize you so that you can go do that for
Digitize my face, something.
and go. You should have been a masked wrestler. That's my.
Oh, well, I could. It would have been brown, and they would have called me the drizzling shits. But I don't know.
I think was it Texas Red or something. I feel like you could have.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could have
But I
did
wore a
that.
black mask. So go figure that one out, right?
Man, Kane stole it from you. He stole that red mask from you when you were all kids, I guess.
That's why I burned him up.
Let's go over to some fan questions.
Oh, I love fan
Man,
questions.
this is a intriguing question. Yeah, from Big Bad John.
Big Bad John, don't make me think too much because CTE is real, brother.
Yeah, that's it. Hashtag CTE is real. The puppy you received from the Big Show on SmackDown. Always wondered whose it really was. Was it yours?
The
Whose
puppy
was it?
I received from Big Show on SmackDown. What? Does he have a year on that? I know exactly what he's talking about.
I can't remember what the year was. You were American Badass.
That was
though.
American Badass. It
Yeah.
was like 2001, maybe.
Yeah. Why did he hand you a puppy?
They were what? I had a gift for me. 'Cause I was, it wasn't real nice. I guess. I don't know if he was trying to put me in a good mood. Puppies put people in a good mood.
I love puppies.
I don't know.
Always smile.
Yeah. So I'm thinking he's in the box and open the door. There's a little puppy. No, the way they usually do that is they just they call locally. I don't know whether they call like a breeder or they called SPCA. Like when we used farm animals, they would find somebody that would bring their animals up. So it was always somebody in the production crew that made some phone calls to get people up there with whatever
dog or whatever it's going to be.
But yeah, so that dog, he was one and done. It wasn't my dog. It wasn't anybody's dog on the crew. It was It was a rented
dog.
It was a rented dog. It was probably going to get euthanized or something.
Oh my gosh!
What?
Lord have mercy, it's a puppy.
If he didn't find a home,
No animals were harmed on SmackDown.
no animals were harmed. That was bad humor.
All right, Big Bad John. Thanks for that deep question into a 35-year career.
I like the hard-hitting, deep stuff.
Yeah, he dug way back.
Way
back. Yeah, man, you spent your money, the hard-earned money on Patreon for that one. From Fred DeCorte. My question is, was there a match you were not expecting to be good that ended up being good, and vice versa? Was there a match you expected to be good that ended up being bad? So did you have a good match that ended up being bad, or a match that you're going into thinking, this is going to suck, and it ended up being good?
I think, I was extremely nervous going into the WrestleMania match with Batista.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, I wasn't completely sold on that he was 100% committed to his role, and I didn't think he took everything as seriously. I was wrong because I thought that match, I thought it was one of the better matches on that card, and one of Dave's better matches. I mean, he really brought it that night, and I was really pleased with how that match turned out, and I had a whole new respect for Dave after that. But I mean, I was wound tight that day, brother. That was one of those just leave him alone kind of days, because I was it was WrestleMania. The streak is now well in play. I think the main event was hair versus hair, Trump versus his hair versus Vince's hair. I believe Shawn, I can't remember who Shawn worked with. I don't know if it was Cena, but they had a killer match too. And so I was like, man, I do not want to be on this show with this many eyes on it and stink out the joint. And man, I couldn't have been more pleased with Dave and how the match turned out.
Was the nurse because of just you didn't feel like he was just kind of backstage? He wasn't fully.
I didn't feel like he was fully committed to the way he should be. for his role in the company.
Did you see a turning point after that
Oh
match?
yeah, 100%. Yeah, yeah.
Have you ever had a conversation with him about that? Where you?
No, not really. We really did become much closer though.
Yeah.
I think that's due to me just kind of letting my guard down. Like, okay, this dude, he does get it and he does want it, and
I wonder if he kind of had a moment of clarity of like, man, I'm about to step in the ring with The Undertaker. This is, the streak. There's a lot here. It's WrestleMania. Or I wonder if someone maybe got in his ear a little bit.
Yeah, I don't
prior.
know. I do remember him, and I was like, ooh, because Sean hadn't worked yet. I don't think at this point. Him coming back and like, he was like, effing follow that, and I'm like, okay, buddy, just hit the brakes a little bit.
We still got some Hall of Famers.
We got some dudes that can go. We might want to just let's be happy. Let's be happy because we tore it down. So I didn't really expect a lot out of that match, and then a match that I thought would be just freaking stellar was the tag match, me and Kane against Shawn and Triple H. Shawn coming out of retirement for the one match, and we're thinking, you got four guys with that much that much experience and top guys. And you think, shoot, we could do this in our sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong in that match. From Triple H tearing his pec right out of the get. I mean, within the first 5 minutes of the match, he's down. Shawn trying to do the back moonsault onto the floor onto me and Kane, and coming up short, and then Kane losing his mask, and it was just like, it was just a cluster, and it was so awful that, like, we were all pissed, we were all mad about it, but it was also so bad that you just kind of like, you had to laugh because the odds of 4 Hall of Famer, or
a Mount Rushmore, really. I mean, to a lot of people,
it was just like, how on earth did that just happen? I mean, it was awful, and
yet they keep inviting you back to Saudi, so it's gotta.
So evidently they don't really care about match quality. They more identify with stars, I guess, because I wouldn't have I wouldn't have let me back in the country after that match, but. So that was the one that I was, I was thinking, this is cake. This is gonna be a cakewalk.
You're not even gonna feel like you worked.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna phone this one in, and it just, we got on. It was like the scene. It turned into like the scene from Lone Survivor when Marcus Luttrell's falling down the mountain and fighting, and all those guys are. And it just keeps. They get to one plateau and then they take a step and they keep rolling. That's how that match ended up.
That was a tough one.
That was a bad one.
All right, well, we appreciate the fans' questions, and if you would like to submit a question, all you have to do is go over to Patreon and go to 6 Feet Under with Mark Calloway and sign up so that you can submit a question as well. Mark, Mount Rushmore, this week's topic.
The Mount Rushmore
of finishing moves.
Finishing moves.
You had a couple of right here. We have.
We got old school. Well, old school wasn't a finishing move. Choke slam. I've used it. Tombstone. Last ride.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Not your finishing moves, but finishing moves in the history of wrestling that you feel like are the top 4. That, man, if somebody does it, you can't get up from it. Unless you're Hulk Hogan.
Man, I was going to start off with the big leg drop, too. Shit. Wow.
Perfect that.
Man, that thing was devastating.
I don't know how people walked away from it.
Cripple them, right?
Yeah. I think he lost 14 inches by doing that over his entire career, he said.
14 inches. Good Lord.
They're like the height of Coco Beware now.
And you know who had Coco Beware? He had a heck of a finish. He had that, what do you call it? The skull crusher, or what the heck did he call it? But it was like a vertical suplex, but come down right on their head.
Yeah.
Man, that was pretty impressive.
So you're top 4.
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. I'm having to think though.
I mean, the RKO.
The RKO, that's a good one. Man, the power bomb. Are we talking about the guy or the move?
I think you could probably
Put them together.
I think because that's the thing. Like, you know, nobody does a DDT better than Jake the Snake, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'll put Jake on there too. Just, I mean, his DDT before it turned into a high spot was money. I'm gonna have a little bit of vanity here, and I'll put the tombstone on that. I didn't let anybody kick out of that. I tell you what was physical and hard for a lot of guys to take was the Sid Vicious power bomb. That was
It didn't look like that was a fun landing.
Didn't look fun, and I'll go with the Vader moonsault.
Whose kid is she?
A very wealthy man who's about to be $50 million poorer.
Guys.
I'm sorry about what's gonna happen to you.
Guys. We kidnapped a vampire. How do we kill it? Stake through the heart.
What can I say? I like playing with my food.
Abigail, only in theaters April 19th. Rated R.
Yeah, if you could have just called him.
Yeah, if I had just caught him.
I think, you know, man, you know, Goldberg's like that jackknife that he did, especially in his run. Like,
yeah. I mean, there's tons of stuff.
That was a good one there.
Yeah, that was good. Arn Anderson's spine buster. That was money. Just for your own sake. I
The
mean,
figure
four, brother.
You know, I would say sharpshooter is.
Sharpshooter's got to be in there.
Sean's super kick.
Stunner.
Yeah.
The people's elbow was devastating.
Oh man, yeah. There's some finishing moves where the person themselves are the reason why they
absolutely
were what they were.
Yes,
they weren't
100%.
necessarily devastating moves by any means, but I do believe, as much as I don't like to give you too much, you know, props. The tombstone is definitely one that I think is.
I got 2 brand new metal knees that prove
now. Yeah. Gosh, yeah. I still, it just pisses me off that when you won the title off of Hogan, you tombstoned him the first time. God, I wish he would have sold it. I wish he would. But for the benefit of him, not even.
Yeah,
it's more for him.
Match. Yeah,
because it didn't hurt the tombstone. It didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt you moving forward. I feel like for him, God, you go over and you cross those arms.
He kicks out.
And Hulkamania kicks out. Bro, you want to talk about blowing the roof off the place?
Yeah.
That right there.
I think he got rattled though when on the entrances. We got rattled when I had a bigger babyface reaction.
But he could have. Every one of those fans would have came back to him if he would have done that.
Oh yeah. It was just one of those deals, you know.
Yeah,
that was a Hogan moment.
Because that finisher, I mean, that tombstone finisher, you had literally just killed everybody at that point, and then nobody has seen anyone kick out of it at that point.
Right.
And for him to just pop right up, I just feel like, man, just wait a little bit there. Let's get to where you're crossing the arms and people think Hulkamania is dying. You know?
Yeah, he was on a little different agenda.
Yeah, I'm like, man, you got
psychology wasn't.
You got the clean finish. All that stuff was about to happen, and Yeah, but hey, it is what it is.
Hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, another great episode, Mark. Once again, congratulations to Paul Heyman.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited for Paul.
Well deserved. Great career. Overdue, in my opinion, of becoming a Hall of Famer. And can't wait to see, what he continues to do with his career, because I don't think it's ending anytime soon for him.
No, you've actually got me peaked now.
Man, I'm telling you.
I'm invested. Like, I was already invested. Now I'm like really invested because you made some really good points for a change.
Him and Guns. Well, we appreciate our audience for listening. If you guys want some extra content, you want to be able to submit questions, head over to Patreon to 6 Feet Under with Mark Calloway to be able to become a member and be able to submit questions. Also, if you want to get some merch, head over to 6feetundermerch.com. If you subscribe to the YouTube channel or go over to the merch and buy some merch, you'll get yourself entered in to win World Heavyweight Championship belt, autographed by yours truly, The Undertaker.
That's a good looking belt.
It is a pretty good looking
Winged
belt.
Eagle Undertaker edition.
Man.
I might keep it.
You might. Well, we'll see how many shirts get sold. We want to thank First Form and Wally X Sunglasses for keeping us going. We appreciate y'all. Mark, I appreciate you. Let's go eat some tacos.
Man, that sounds like a great idea. Let's
Awesome.
go.
Thank y'all. See y'all next week.
You don't actually have to.
But I can.
Flexible financing for dental care with Care Credit.
Oh, come on! It didn't deserve all that. Now
He folded him up like a cheap card table.
Anyway,
I was.
Coco used to be 6.
You were gonna take him in the lot and beat the shit out of him.
I would apologize.
Well, Mark, it's a little crowded here today.
It is a little crowded. We actually have a guest.
We have a guest.
Man, you're brave.
I'm excited.
I mean, we're setting podcasting back at least 10 years. So we are in the process of faking it until we make it.
100%.
And we hadn't made it yet, but we're still grinding away at it. But man, really appreciate you coming out, because I know you've been out grinding and doing some great things with your show.
Having fun, kicking butt.
But man, well, that's as long as you're having fun, man.
Yeah.
But I just you just told me that you had sold out the Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, the Garden was always such a special place for me. Like, I hated getting there, like going into the city and doing all that. But once you're in the Garden, it's it's just such an iconic building. The Garden, a lot of people that know, was the first venues that when you walk the halls and it has all the performers that have played there.
Oh, yeah.
They were the first ones to do that. Now there's a lot of them that do it, but it was always cool. The dressing room that I used, like, as soon as I would walk out, the first person I see is Muhammad Ali when he's fighting Frazier, and then make a quick left and there's Elvis, right? And it's so cool, and it was so kind of ahead of its time. But man, when you sell the Garden out, brother.
Oh yeah, it's soaked in history. I was there for I went with Joe for the first UFC at the Garden,
right,
and was lucky enough to get to sit right behind him, right against the octagon, and yeah, when I was backstage for it was just, and I snuck out, we have the super pass or whatever to where like you can kind of just go any direction. You can go up the stands. I could go from where the fighters come out. It's kind of like an all access thing. Everybody at the UFC knows me because it's been like a decade and a half of traveling with him and working with him, so it's kind of like I'm part of the crew. But very rarely do I do this thing that I did at MSG, which is like I'll just go right over and up the stands and right up the stairway. And yeah, the lap around that joint is crazy. And MSG to me, even though of course all those great things that have happened there, you know, our timelines are a little different. To me, MSG represents, you know, WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 2.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, you know, that joint where it's like, wow, you know, they put all their money up, took a chance.
Big chance.
It represents to me gambling on yourself. You know what I mean?
Yep. Absolutely.
And yeah, when I saw, I think it's Roddy Piper's boots and Hogan's boots or something like that, or something. And there's a picture of everything that was going on there in those glass cases. It really sunk in. And Rogan was scheduled to do a stand-up there. I think it was scheduled for, I think it was October of 2020. So when March came around and they're like, things are closing down. And we're like, okay, sure, they're closing down. Maybe for a couple weeks or something. What are we talking about here? And man, all I was thinking about March, April, May, June, I was just obsessed with this idea of having the middle of Madison Square Garden, because we do these arenas in the round, not just all the way to the side.
Right.
And I just pictured, I'm like, I want to do my 20 minutes. It's by yourself, 20 minutes, you and a microphone.
Right.
And I was picturing it again and again and again. And sure enough, of course, as we all know, gets rescheduled again, gets rescheduled again. And luckily, and I mean, it was the story when I was in a low during that pandemic, I would tell my girlfriend or whoever I was whining to, I'm supposed to be doing frickin' Madison Square Garden, and here I am stuck, you know, whatever. And it finally got rescheduled, and it was a go, and we did it, and we had a blast. And to think that my silly, goofy podcast is now doing 2 nights there. I think it has to have something to do with that manifestation, or putting it out, and as corny as it sounds, talking about it and wanting it and putting it out there in the universe, how bad I wanted it during that whole time, because I never would have guessed. I mean, it was the story of my pandemic, just me opening for 20 minutes.
Right.
And now I'm pretty sure it's the first podcast to ever do Madison Square Garden.
That's
so
great.
Yeah, we're so pumped.
Have you ever performed there before? I mean, have you?
No,
you never.
No, not until I opened for Joe on that show that we finally got to do a year or 2 ago. But yeah, that's not a normal thing. Doing stand up at Madison Square Garden.
No, not at all.
It's a short list of people that have gotten to do that. And
that's incredible. Yeah. The garden too. Not only is like being in the garden, but you got to have your A game too, because New Yorkers, man, they don't mess around. They will let you know, like, if in a match you're stinking the joint out, oh my gosh, there is no gratuitous like, oh, okay, well, they're trying. No.
Right.
They let you know it, man, and it's
How special was it for you for them to light up the garden in purple?
I was blown away. Like, you know, I had no clue, right, until I rolled up on the place, and it was kind of crazy because, like, I knew that was going to be my last time in the garden, in front of a crowd, and then they lit it up purple, and I was just like, oh, I got all kind of feels and all that. I was just like, well, you can't go in there with your eyes all watery, but that place is it is. It was just like such an iconic venue to work, and I mean, it was the home. It was the home of the WWE, really. That was the way it was. We always considered it, because the old man was always there. It was more run like a pay-per-view. Even our live events, our non-televised live events there were, and we sold it out. When we got hot there in the Attitude Era, man, it was that place. There's no better there's no better place to work once you're there and in there in the garden. So
That's
the fact
insane. That I mean, for Kill Tony, it's #1 live podcast in the world, right?
Yeah.
And this thing, how did it start? How did you? Because to me, I think it is. Because I went to the New Year's Eve show at HEB Center, and I'm sitting out there watching it, going, man, we can't even figure out how to do a podcast in a studio with just 2 people.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching what you're doing, and I'm like, how in the world?
Yeah.
So how did this start, and how in the world are you able to put that type of podcast together weekly?
Well, I was hosting at the Comedy Store where comedians would do 3-minute-long sets, and I would go up in between each comedian and kind of make fun of them, or maybe say, hey, by the way, that joke would work if you had the punchline at the end, like if you would have said da 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 boom, and then the crowd would laugh. So it was kind of like I was giving advice or annihilating them, roasting them, like one more time for the, clowny Down syndrome guy or whatever I would say, anything. And
I love Down syndrome.
I popped it. I don't even.
yeah, exactly. You didn't even get to see him, but you can picture him.
Yeah.
But I always, and everybody was starting podcasts, and I really thought I was late to the party. That's the interesting part, is like everybody kind of already had their podcast going for a few years, and they're like, Tony, when are you gonna start your podcast? I was in the Rogan universe, and all those guys already had theirs: Segura, Burt, Joey Diaz, Red Band, and just everybody, Duncan, Ari. So I was the last one to start one because I didn't really want to do one.
Not quite.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Not quite.
exactly. Here we are.
We must be the cleanup crew.
We are. Go get the scraps.
Trying to be abrupt, but I'm just thinking like, man, we're a little behind the 8 ball.
Maybe, but this is like, who knows? Because this is the whole thing now. But I wanted it to be different, and when talking to comedians in a studio like this type of setup, I always feel like tight. I get a little daydreamy. I like an audience. Even the fact that there's like people walking around here and sitting over there, whatever that doofus over there is doing. You know what I mean?
Hopefully
Like it gives
money.
like there to be an opportunity. It makes it feel more open. Whereas like in Rogan's studio, it's just you and him. And yeah, Jamie's over there, but he's like behind a monitor, and it's just like, it's hard to really just stare and listen to one person for me. And so I wanted something that would like keep me excited and make me want to be funny. Because I also find it hard to be funny with just 1 or 2 people. Especially if there's microphones and stuff. So anyway, I was just like, I think I should do this type of open mic format, but I think 3 minutes is too long of a set for somebody to do. I think it should be 1 minute. That's enough to get to know at least if they're funny or if they're entertaining, and then I can interview them from there, because I kind of wanted to do a thing where I was just interviewing random people, like of different occupations, maybe the audience members, but that was a little, that gets a little wonky too. So I put it all together, 1 minute comedy sets, and then I interview them afterwards, try to figure out more material that they could talk about or something. And I could still make fun of them, obviously, which is my bread and butter. So the rest is history. Week 1, I think there was like 8 people there. 4 of them signed up for the show. Week 2, there was 12 and 5 signups, and so on and so on. And we ended up, it was just such a wild experiment. Just 1 camera and 1 tiny little recording device plugged into 4 microphones, and that was it. It just kept growing, and still, somehow it's still doing that. We keep it raw, and we work alongside of, we try to follow the rules as closely as we can. We bleep the things that we have to bleep, but for that live audience, we play it live, and we're giving them the goods that, or at least we're trying to be something that just feels real,
And it does.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is pretty unique about it and what's made it successful. And you guys don't hold back on those folks when they come up there.
I was raised in the Attitude Era. I mean, like everything
what about
now,
tough love?
everything now is soft to me. Because like this is exactly, I mean,
yep.
I saw it all. That was every Saturday, Monday, you know, whatever it was back then, Tuesday or Thursday. I remember. I think it was Tuesday SmackDown back then.
But yeah, we would tape on Tuesday and it would air on Friday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you had the Saturday Superstars. And stuff
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That, the main event.
The show
Saturday
you
night
just
main event.
would hate when you got to TV and said, oh, I got to do Superstars.
Yeah. But I had my routine down, man. I had these frozen pierogies, these Mrs. T's frozen pierogies. You know what I'm talking about? They're like potato and onion frozen. It was a little box like that. And I would get my TV tray, put it in the living room. I'd boil water, and I would take an onion. It's kind of disgusting thinking about it now. Take a half an onion, slice it up real good, take a quarter of a stick of butter, throw it in a frying pan, heat the butter up, take the half an onion sliced and throw it in the frying pan, boil the pierogies, and have it all. I would have it timed out so that by the time I took this plate with basically just a plate of potato and noodles and pierogies. Basically, I did. I was raised really poor, super poor, and but I would sit there and boom, the fires would start, and whatever the entrance was back then. Oh, totally, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was every Monday, and it had all of my attention, and super WWE loyal guy. Like I would watch WCW, but I'd kind of watch it like that the whole time with like this
Where'd you
look
grow
on my
up?
face.
Ohio, right?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah. So WCW, I grew up in the South, and it was that was like
it's
the
different.
product, right?
Exactly.
And
Who's your guy? Who's your guy?
I mean, it's the greatest of all time, brother. There's only one. When we talk about wrestling, it is the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. There's no others. The thing is when you talk about Mount Rushmores, you have Ric Flair, and then you can go talk about your Mount Rushmore. You can't
even start without Rick on.
You don't even put him on there.
You don't
because it's unfair to everybody else. The Mount Rushmore now for wrestling is just 3 people. That's all you can tell me I'm wrong.
3?
For me?
Yeah. What do you mean it's 3? Why is it only 3?
Because Rick has that spot no matter what.
I see.
But it's really easy. I don't understand why people even debate the Mount Rushmore. It's Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, Ole Anderson, Tony Blanchard.
Shut up.
That's it. It's the 4 horsemen.
That's out of control.
It's the 4 horsemen.
You're out of control.
Tony, I work with a hick.
You really did.
J.J. Dillon made this really easy for us a long time ago by assembling the 4 greatest wrestlers of all time and creating the 4 horsemen.
I did this to myself.
This isn't hard.
It's unbelievable.
This isn't hard.
It really is. You got a bunch of hillbillies. You got a producer with no shoes on running around. This place is, I'm waiting for an actual goat to turn on camera 1 or something like that.
Yeah, when I told you we had no clue what we were doing.
Yeah, this started in a gym.
Like I was saying, I would heat up those pierogies and start Raw, and I mean it is the backbone of my show. Only the crossover wrestling fans and Kill Tony fans know it and can see it. The other ones are just marks that have no idea why it excites them when now in the arena shows the giant, I have a giant Jumbotron that you know what I mean, that comes out of my budget. Right. You know what I mean? And I go, let's spring for it. Well, this one's only 20 grand, but this one's 80 grand, and it's obnoxiously huge. I go, that sounds like the one.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
that's it.
And when their names come, boom, and music hits, and doof, all this stuff that doesn't need to be on a comedy podcast at all. But I'm giving those people, the real fans, if it's just the chills for just a second, like, wow, look at this guy coming out to this giant applause with his name in big letters behind him, who we know lived in his van, a year and a half before and was doing 6 open mics a night. And now look at him because they follow the storyline. And I just let them in on these stories because it is a refillable show. And even though they're not obviously wrestling in a ring, the sets are their matches. And it's always different, but it keeps it refillable. But it's literally pro wrestling 101. I mean, it is just never-ending storylines, and if something interesting's happening in their life, I'll ask them about it the next week and the week after, because we tape every week, but we do these bonus ones in the arena, which just started off as a one-off. My big comedy agent a year ago, because I go, I want to do an arena. And they're like, okay, that's crazy. Where do you see yourself doing this? I go, Austin, Texas, New Year's Eve. And they're like, you do the show in Austin. Like, you do that every week. You have sold out shows. Why would you do it there? And I go, because I want to bring people. Have them come to me. I do my stand-up on the road 2 weekends a year. This is something that I think we can really get to come here. And literally the longest talk on the phone I've ever had with my agent, where I'm doing the talking. Like, no, I'm telling you, we can do this. And he goes, are you going to take some shows off so that we can really get the tickets going and this and that? I go, no, at the end of the 10-year anniversary show on June 10th, at the very end, we announced that we're doing an arena in Austin, and I think you'll be surprised. We ended up adding a second show to that. And of course, when it's sold out in a few hours, the agent goes, man, this is one of the best ideas we've ever come up with.
We've ever come up with, right? Yeah.
And so here we are now looking at quarterlies, We're looking at, the LA Forum now in May and MSG in August. And we have another big thing we're going to do in October that we haven't announced yet. And most likely, it looks like we're going to do another New Year's Eve here in Austin. Sweet. So we're going to make that a routine. And who knows? I mean, geez, a New Year's Eve, Austin, Texas, the lights go out, surprise, surprise, a moment. Anything can happen. Who knows down the road?
It will happen. It will happen.
Oh, all right. We've got a commitment here. You need to go to I have not been to a show at the Mothership, but that's something I would love more than anything for you to be able to go sit up there on that panel and watch what happens with these guys.
You would love it.
Yeah. I mean, you're already on the table.
Yeah. You're part of the set. You're set. One episode years ago, someone gave us an Undertaker action figure on the show. I can't remember who, but it has stayed right on the side of that bucket. You're hanging off of the bucket. You're the only non working piece of the show that's on the table.
But I think it's kind of I don't know the right word because I've got a small vocabulary, but you've got the Undertaker hanging off the bucket of people who are literally about to potentially be killed.
Yeah. Kill or be killed.
Yeah. And you've got this Undertaker hanging from this bucket of folks that. Yeah. But the cool thing is, you've made some careers.
Yeah.
Like, when you gave an opportunity for someone to make a career for themselves. Is what you did.
Oh yeah. I'm just the vessel in between, because it's like the old days. It's not a team of writers telling the comedians what to do. They're cutting they're writing their own minute, and I'm just bringing them in and putting them in the right part of the show for them to do what they're doing. You know, start the show with a bang, have something in the middle that's great, and obviously end with, something they absolutely can't miss. It really is.
It really is.
It is 100%. And it's exciting because it took 10 and a half years for us to kind of fulfill that prophecy. I've been building it for a long time that way, but it was always just in little comedy clubs. So there was no smoke, there was no fire pumping machines, there was no Titantrons, there was no big entrances. So I had to figure out little ways to do it along the way. Like, we used to have these little, anytime a new regular was announced, which only happens once every couple years, we would have these little confetti cannons, that you twist, almost like a gender reveal type of thing. But I would just have two people waiting on each side of the stage. And it would basically be like, okay, when I go like that, you just go poof, poof, and that was it. And now it's like,
it's awesome, man.
It's crazy stuff happening. But yeah, it's all wrestling. And you, my friend, I mean, geez, I think we kind of covered this on JRE, but I learned about death from you, and I think probably a lot of people did. You probably get that a lot, right?
Yeah. You know what I get a lot of, and it kind of always catches me off guard, and I had quite a few even when I was active, is the amount of Make-A-Wish kids that are terminal. that want to meet me, and it's like.
You're about to anyway.
Right.
Don't worry.
I mean,
the day's coming.
But you want to meet two Undertakers?
You're gonna go 1-1 here. But yeah,
like Hulk Hogan's back here. You want to say,
you want someone with a little
killed a
hope
lot of
or
careers.
something?
Yeah, he's killed a lot of careers.
Yeah, he'll tell you to take your vitamins and say your prayers. Those aren't going to help you at this point. But
yeah, that one always caught me off guard. But like, and now that I'm doing, the One Dead Man show, is the amount of people that lived through that character that were like wanting to hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Like, and used that whole thing, that whole character and everything as a weekly escape. Or I had one lady tell me, I was in Philadelphia, I think, and she goes, I had my note, I had my plan, I had everything I was going to do. She was going to kill herself. And she said, the only thing I don't even remember what the storyline was, but evidently it was a good one, because she kept every week coming back because she wanted to see what was going to happen until finally she got through it. But I'm at my meet and greet, right? And, I try to make the meet and greets, I try to make them like, it's not just like, hey, how you doing? I try to give them a little bit of time. And she starts telling me this story of how, she made it through because of the Undertaker care. And I'm just like, ooh, okay. So it really, it can be humbling to know how you affect, because you don't think about it.
Oh yeah.
You're going out, you're doing what you love to do. You don't think about maybe the effects that you have on people, and man, it's really been a like, damn.
And I think, you're probably doing, you may not be getting those stories right now, but I imagine there's people that on their way to work, on their way home, whatever, they just aren't having the greatest days, and they turn on a Kill Tony podcast, and they can laugh, they can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
go home and just check out by watching it on TV or whatever.
Yeah, they know it's gonna come out every Monday at 8. That's the thing. We've never not released one Monday at 8, and it's the advice that I give anybody that starts a podcast or wants to even just do a live comedy show. I go, make it weekly, set a time, set a place, because if someone likes your stuff, they're not going to want to go, oh, it's the second Tuesday of this month. That's impossible. Who's doing that kind of math? But if if it's a band, it's like, okay, I've told my musician buddies this, that, I've made 100 of since moving to Austin, which is like, get in, set it. Set it. Make it Thursdays at 8:30 or Fridays at 2 p.m. Who cares? But as long as people know, then you'll have your fans returning. They'll, it's Pavlov's dogs. Give them what they want. Give them a time. These musicians here in Austin are so bad at promoting themselves. They'll put a post up without even the time or the venue on it. Yeah. It's hilarious. Hey, we're doing a show this week. Good luck. It's hilarious.
There's only 2,000 bars for you to try to find us in.
The live music capital of the world.
Yeah. We're somewhere in Austin today.
They'll find you.
But Mondays at 8, that's another thing. It's right. It's right on the nose.
Yeah.
Like every other no other podcast. Like, that's not a thing. But in my world, Mondays at 8 represents something. My whole life. And so, I think I told you this one, but I can't remember if we covered this on JRE when we did it or not. But we used to have this upright piano when I was a little kid. It was just there because I'm the youngest of 5. So I was just stuck in this old relic museum of a house that everyone else had already lived through and everything. Anyways, there's this old school upright piano pressed up against these windows, and it had one of those piano benches that open up and where you keep the songbooks and stuff. And I can't remember what age I was, maybe 6 or 7 or something, when you were going through the Kamala storyline, the first ever coffin match. And every Saturday morning, he was building this coffin. And I'm realizing then, as a little tiny kid, I'm like, wait a second. That's what you go in when you die. This is...
He's going to put that guy...
Yeah, he's going to put that guy in that thing, and then you go in the ground, and then there's that tombstone, there's that rock thing that I see when we drive by on the way to school, like, there's dead people in the ground. I mean,
And this guy
and then
put
there's,
in the ground.
and then there's that moment like
it's
he's gonna kill him.
yeah, it's unbelievably overwhelming to a 6-year-old. Anyway, but I was so bought into it. It was all I could think about. I was so obsessed. And so there I was, you know, little rabble rouser of a kid. I went into the basement, and I grabbed a hammer and nails, because you were pounding these nails into the coffin on the promos. And I went up to the piano bench, because that was the thing that most resembled a coffin to me at the time, because it went up to my, you know, chest or whatever. And I took the nail and I put it right where the thing was, and I just started pounding it right in there, and another nail, and just pretending to be you. And Tony, what the did you do? I could just hear my mom from the other side of the neighborhood whenever it happened. Oh my God, just nails into it. I mean, old school. I can't remember if it was ivory or whatever it was. There's some old school, real, legit wood, because it wasn't easy.
Yeah, no, and and those vignettes that we shot, you could see the breath, like, you know. So I'm dressed in my wrestling gear, and it's freaking, it's 20 degrees outside.
You're in Connecticut, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, everything was done in Connecticut,
Yeah.
and I'm freezing my ass off. And we didn't have the budget then. Like, we didn't have like a trailer, and that thing, it took hours now, because there was, you know, week after week after week of what we were putting out. So I between takes, I would have to like go get in the car, turn the car on, warm up.
Wow.
And then they would like, okay, we're ready for the next shot. And I'm like, oh fuck, I get back out there, and you know, you're building a casket in spandex with some polyester shirt on and some cheap ass leather gloves. I was like, man, he looks scary. It was like, 'cause he was freaking miserable. But that stuff was so instrumental into the development of that character.
Yeah. Oh.
You know, I mean, I wouldn't about it. I mean, I was happy that I was working and doing something, but man, it was like everything, like the time where they locked me in the big coffin when I was working, I think Yoko. And all the guys came out and jumped on me, and then my spirit ascended out of the building. And the next night I'm in a cemetery in Connecticut with wind freezing, or wind chill was, you know, flesh freezing, and I'm traipsing through snow. Same thing in Bruce Pritchard's car. I'm sitting there trying to warm up, and they're like, all right, I think they're ready for you. I was like, fuck, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It was so cold, but man, it's just what it was.
Is that your earliest memory of him?
I think so. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was already bought in. So the debut was the Rumble.
So I debuted at Survivor Series in '90.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking the Kamala stuff was for it was SummerSlam is when I actually had the pay-per-view, but we led up to that was the final blow-off, and that was at Wembley Stadium with Kamala. So that was the end of that run.
Yeah.
So yeah,
90,
I had gone
91.
through. Yeah. So I had gone through the winter and all that. He was so good too. Like Kamala was the Ugandan warrior, but man, he was terrified of caskets.
Oh, really?
Legit, right? He just didn't want any part of them.
How was he in the ring?
Yeah, when he got to WWE, he was more gimmicky than he was like when he was at Mid-South. Like in Mid-South, he was legit scary, but they kind of when they started doing that kind of stuff and the way he sold it, it kind of became a little bit comedic. But it was.
Yeah.
But Kamala could go. Yeah, he was pretty athletic.
Yeah.
And but he did. His eyes would get real big. Like he would see me, you know, and he had to turn to like what was his handler's name, Kimchi, or So you'd be looking. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But people picked up on it. It's you know, dude's scared to death.
Oh yeah.
Death looking him in the face.
Oh, it worked.
But he's supposed to be talking to them spirits, and he was supposed to be essentially part of death as well. I mean, the way his character was, you know, and that voodoo and everything else that he did too.
Yeah.
But so Tony, you did you get a job with WWE as a writer,
No.
or you almost did, or something?
No, I almost did. And I could have. And a big part of my pitch was actually, what I'm blanking out right now, but
Undertaker
it was a Kane,
versus Sting.
It was a Kane Undertaker. What was it? Oh man, gosh darn it, I'm blanking out right now.
I do it all the time.
But it had something to do with, gosh darn it, it had something to do with you and Kane. Yeah, no, it was something that was offered to me, but it would have meant me moving to Connecticut, and I had heard horror stories about the job.
I'm just didn't mean to interrupt, but that's probably the best decision you ever made was not taking that job.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, like, I don't commit. I would never commit the writers' names to memory because they weren't going to be there that long. I mean, there's been like 3 or 4 that are tenured now, but it was just like, you're gone.
I mean, not everybody's a Vince Russo. Yeah.
Why you just trying to stir up?
I'm not trying to stir up anything. I just make comments. That's all it is. I just make observation. I see something, I make a comment. That's all it is. And there's nothing, to it. But Tony, if you were, this was something I thought about last night. If you were writing for WWE, I think I don't know how much you're watching the product today, but The Rock coming back with the bloodline and everything. We were talking earlier. It feels like the Attitude Era again. It feels like late 90s, early 2000s all over again. If you were writing for WWE right now, where could you see The Undertaker? Where could you see that character in today's wrestling? And Mark,
in this chair right here.
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about the character itself. How would the character itself? And Mark, I'd like to hear from you too on this. Like, where would you see the Undertaker's character today? How could he fit into today's wrestling? With WrestleMania 40 around the corner, how does Undertaker fit into 2024?
Why you put him on the spot like that?
I'm putting both of you. Y'all have this conversation of where you fit. I mean, he's the master writer over here,
I mean, well, I am. This is completely improvised, and I am on the spot. But there's two places I think you can kind of go with this. In a world where, I mean, you want to get tremendous heat. You want to get the world talking. First, I think you bring back Brock Lesnar immediately and just let the crowd go crazy, and he goes blah 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 blah, and I'm here to dominate and nobody's gonna stop me, blah 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 blah. Lights go out. Ultimate revenge match, Lesnar versus Taker, WrestleMania, this and that. But in the modern, if I was stuck to deal with the exact people that are on week to week right now, I mean, it's a tough one, but because they don't have, or at least maybe I don't see, and I'm admittedly not like completely caught up. I'm watching the Cody Rock thing and everything happen from afar, but it doesn't seem like they have a really great dark force. I was a huge part of the reason why I got back into it about, whatever it was, 8 years ago, and watched up until, I mean, really it was, again, this sounds cheesy and you're probably not going to believe it, but it was really like you and your official retirement match against AJ Styles was kind of like my retirement match watching
wrestling.
And that was crazy great. I mean, I was so happy that it was what an unbelievably beautiful frickin' ribbon to put on that thing, especially if it was during the pandemic and there was nothing entertaining going on other than Dana White or other than UFC and what you guys were doing. And
I think thank you for that. We got lucky in the sense that we got to go out of the Performance Center because all the matches like Edge and I think Randy Orton, they had a hell of a match. so sterile because there's no reaction. It was, I mean, that we weren't even pumping in noise at that point, or didn't have the virtual audience. I mean, it was just them having a match in the performance center, a killer match, but just there's just no emotion to feed off of. There's nothing, you know. That's the thing that you live for.
You can hear their like bootlaces clanking against the ground and stuff. Like,
we were fortunate enough that we got to go off and then had this, you know, what they call a thematic thing, or cinematic. Cinematic is the word I'm looking for. A cinematic match, and
amazing.
You know, it was cool for me because I got to kind of tie in. I got to tie in all the characters into like one. I got to tie myself, the old school Undertaker, the American Badass. Everything got tied together for that match, just due to the fact of the content of the interviews and the stuff that AJ was doing. But I felt, you know, that match was obviously supposed to be held in a ring. So we got really lucky that we were able to have like those kind of toys and the atmosphere.
And then you got to sit in a car in between takes and warm up a little bit.
Warm up a little bit, because it does get, contrary to what people believe, it does get cold at 3 or 4 in the morning in Florida.
Tony, I don't know if you know or not, what happened at, you know, we talked about this earlier today too, but what happened at 4 o'clock that morning or 3 o'clock?
Yeah, so we were between takes. We were getting ready to go to the big finale off the top of the barn deal there, and it was getting cold. And, you know, we've been at it since like, I don't know, I think we started filming around dark, which was around 8 o'clock. So now it's 4 in the morning, and my back, everything is just locking up, and that's like when that's when it finally clicked. Like, this is it, dude. You're not coming back after this one. And it was just a moment. I was sitting there by myself. It was a moment of pure clarity that just said, "Shit, this is it right here."
Yeah.
And you know, didn't share. I mean, you know, obviously didn't share it with anybody when we got through it, but. Yeah.
Were you content with that? Did it make you?
I was happy because of how it was. Another thing, like I was really fortunate enough to be involved in so many innovative matches and these crazy storylines, and to be able to do this big cinematic type match, which, you know, would add, you know, different layers to the product. I was happy with all that. You know, deep down. You know, I always thought like AJ was the Shawn Michaels of, you know, of this generation.
Yeah.
And I wanted to have that kind of match that I had with Shawn with AJ in a ring, but I don't think it would have been as poetic as what we were able to do.
Oh, totally. No, I agree 100. There's nothing you could have done in a ring that would have been like that. I mean, it was magical. And again, you know, your promos, the vignettes, the everything, that's also a part of that element.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? The smoke, the darkness, the lighting in the background, all things that, I mean, while you're talking about how you got all 3 of your characters and everything in there, it's like that's a big part of it too, that got to really be captured. And the dirt and the bulldozer and the barn and the lighting and the fog. And
it's almost accidentally you had the best ending for that character that I think you could have had.
I think so. Yeah. And looking back, I think so. I mean, like I said, we got to incorporate all the. I mean, we had the bike, we had graves, we had the dirt, we had druids, we had every aspect. And
there's something special about being in the ring in front of 80,000 people or whatnot, whatever, you know, Raymond James holds. But it's to finish that character the way that y'all did that night, I think was the appropriate match, the appropriate place, everything.
Even the song, like, you know, we used Metallica stepped up again and let us use you know, their music, the riding off. The neighborhood that I rode through wasn't real pleased about me riding, blaring that you know, down the road on that bike at 4 and 5 in the morning, but it was very poetic.
They had no idea probably who was on the bike.
Was that only a one-night shoot?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. We started, like I said, we started around 8 p.m. I think we finished just before sunup. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. Your back had to have been locked up.
Oh, it was, I was done. And I was like, there was a couple of things that AJ wanted to do, which would have put a shine, even a bigger shine on me. And I was like, dude, I don't know that I can do it. And I would hate for, I don't, we knew we had something, although it hadn't been edited or anything yet. We knew we had something special. I said, man, I don't want to risk it because.
Were you the one that called AJ, or did he call you?
He called me.
Yeah.
Off of, he just heard something that I had said. It may have been it was in the last ride.
Yeah, it was.
It was in the last ride. I was sitting in Vince's office, and they were interviewing me, and he happened to come up on the monitor, and I just ended up saying, like, man, that's the one guy I missed that I would have liked to have worked with. And then must have said something like, or he felt like I had one more left in, and he called me, and I was like, oh man, because I at that time I was already contemplating, retirement, but I still had the fire, and then he called me, and I was like, man, that's AJ, man, I really want to work with him, so. Yeah, that's how that happened. He ended up calling me and talking me into it.
And you, my memory, again, once my stand-up thing really started taking off, it was so hard for me to catch up. But you did have one WrestleMania against Bray Wyatt, right?
Yeah, so the year after they broke the streak with Brock, that next year, I think it was in San Francisco, I worked with Bray, which... It was, there wasn't a lot there. Right. I mean, he was pretty much fed to me to get me back on the. Right. I would have loved to have worked a program. Yeah. He was one of those guys that, and I talk about it all the time. He thought outside of the box.
Totally. I didn't get to finish what I was saying earlier, where I was getting to the point to where. One of the things that got me back into it during that time was him. Yeah. I mean, it was like my buddy Matt Edgar was like, dude, there's a new Undertaker. You're going to love him. He's like, there's this other guy that goes, yes, yes, yes. I remember Daniel Bryan being very, everybody else's guy, but he was spot on. When I saw Bray Wyatt come out with that lantern and his Louisiana, Bayou Goons, the Wyatt family, I was in. Yeah. Total throwback to your vignettes, like exactly the type of darkness that gets my attention.
But a different kind of darkness. Totally. More of a I don't know, like a Cape Fear turned way left. I mean, it was really good.
Yeah, it felt like it could be real, like scary real.
Yeah, it was. Especially the Wyatt family, the initial run. Yeah. And then I think they kind of screwed the pooch a little bit when they burned him and then had him come out. But even that, he still made it creepy and different. And but that's just, and I preach it all the time now. It's like, think outside of the box.
Totally.
Yeah, because don't emulate. Yeah. You gotta think. You can look and take bits and pieces of things like, okay, I see why he's doing this, but if you try to duplicate it, then it's just like, it's not gonna. One, it's not original, and two, it's just there's not enough meat left on the bone. But Bray, man, he was special. He really, really was special. And I would have loved to have had a really nice extended program.
Cena too at that WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean that was
a
freak
weirdest
show. But even it was just like captivating. It wasn't a per se wrestling match, but it was entertaining.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the first part of our podcast with Tony Hinchcliffe. I hope you enjoyed. Tune in next Monday for the conclusion of this hilarious podcast with a great guy in Tony Hinchcliffe. Just want to say thank you to First Form and Wiley X for helping support our podcast. And if you'd like to get some 6 Feet Under merch, go to 6feetundermerch.com to pick up your latest 6 Feet Under apparel. Also, if you'd like to submit a question, head over to our Patreon, 6 Feet Under with Mark Calloway. Thank y'all. Tune in next Monday. Be sure to hit that follow button, subscribe button, leave a comment, like us, give us a 5-star rating, all those great things. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
I'm such a sucker for intro music and the pop. God, when that music hits and you go pop, I mean, you hear and look at that crowd, it's insane. Yeah, I think that it's so interesting because, I mean, granted, they shocked us with it, and I get it. Brock was a big, bad man, and he was a real, obviously a UFC champion and a recognized wrestler and all of these things. Such a powerful force. I get it. Him being the one to break the streak. And again, maybe this is just my silly dark brain, and maybe I'm biased because I believe in like passing the torch, giving someone like a real rub.
Right.
But what are your thoughts on maybe Bray getting to do that instead of Brock in retrospect?
Yeah, it would have been, I've spoke on that. I don't think Brock needed it.
Right.
Brock was already, in my opinion, established star, mega star.
Yeah.
But I think a guy like, and Roman ended up being another mega star, but it would have been good for Roman to do it at the end of my career if you're going to pass it on. But Bray, if the storyline would have been done right, that would have been ideally.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have that. There's so much you could have done there. I mean, not only you're not passing the torch, you're passing spirits. You're passing
100%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
There would have been so many levels
Generations
to that.
of
Generation,
fear.
exactly.
Yeah.
And shit that he would have been able, obviously, things happening different than what they did with him, but I mean, he would have been able to pull that crap out for years and years and years. There would have been so many, like I said, so many layers, and that would have been, I think that would have been the ideal person to do that with.
They could have potentially used your character for a few years as well, just in promos and things like that with Bray potentially.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What was the guys up there in 300? They had to go get were they oracles? They had to get the oracles okay to go to war.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it.
It was almost like he has to go to the throne.
Yeah, he has to go to the throne to declare war on somebody.
That would have been so cool.
Yeah, there's so much, like he has to go to the pits of hell or whatever to go to you that's sitting on this throne of death or whatever. Like, that could have. But so Tony, is Attitude Era your favorite era of wrestling, or was it like? I mean, it's everybody's, right?
I mean, how could it not be, right?
Yeah. I feel like it is. Outside of this guy, I mean, who were you on the edge of your seat for? I mean, because I feel like everyone during that time, I mean, every match was a great match. Every Monday night was must-see TV. It was better than any pay-per-view that you were going to watch. It was amazing.
And it was just so funny. That's the thing. Like, it's like, I mean, it was just hysterical. Yeah, it was really just, the way that they were able to make it so refillable. It wasn't, it's not the most iconic moments that stand out to me. It's those random, when I'm on Twitter following these goofy wrestling things, the things that I forgot about. you know,
You and me both.
Yeah. But it was just so crazy. I mean, you know, it's interesting because again, yeah, I graduated high school in 2003, so that was kind of like whatever happened right after that. Like I moved to LA and like all these things, so like everything changed. So like when everybody started going what to Stone Cold,
yeah.
that's where I'm kind of like, that's just after my time.
Yeah.
So there's like a gap. There's a big gap between 2004 and like 2000, whenever Daniel Bryan and Bray were really like, yeah. So whatever that was, 2011, 2012, something like that. But I mean, yeah, man, The Rock, Stone Cold, all the promos, all the things that they were saying to start an episode. I'm such a sucker for intro music and the pop. I'm all about the pop.
All about the pop,
Sometimes, if I need a pick me up, this is true, by the way. Like if I need to like fire myself up, there's like a few things I watch. Kelly Pavlik, an old boxer from my hometown of Youngstown, beating Jermaine Taylor in a boxing match. There's a new middleweight champion of the world, and he's from Youngstown, Ohio, Jim Lampley says, and it gives me energy. But there's a lot of little wrestling ones. One of them is the first ever entrance of Chris Jericho, that final countdown where it's like a throwaway. You forgot the clock was running. It's this weird thing they were showing. It felt like 8 months of just this burn and burn.
The clock running down to the year 2000. Yeah.
And that's one. Oh my God. When that music hits and you go, pop. I mean, you hear and look at that crowd, it's insane. Even though I'm not a big WCW guy, that one time that they threw away that Monday night and and they let Goldberg beat Hogan on a random on a random Monday in Atlanta in front of Goldberg's entire sold out stadium, and he gets him up in the jackhammer and jackhammers him. And I mean, you know, I will give WCW credit for that. It's kind of charming in its trashy ways, because I kind of like the paper cups and everything being thrown into the ring. Gives it so much interesting flavor for an uncoordinated, you know, sloppy fest. But that's one. There's so many. There's just pops. The reaction of the crowd is what gets me in anything. It could be anything.
Do you watch the girl that does the ring announcing now? Was Samantha Irvin or something?
Yeah.
Do you follow her on Instagram?
No.
You need to, if that's what you're into.
Oh, what's
dude.
going
So
on?
she has a camera sitting on her. Have you seen any of these?
She gets
And like when there's a surprise, like there's one famous one where when The Rock comes out and she doesn't realize The Rock, and she's like a kid. She's like that 9-year-old on your living room floor on that Monday night when you hear the glass break and Stone Cold comes out and you're jumping up and down. That's her as a grown person working
Ring
for
announcing.
Yes, she's a ring announcer.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it is so awesome to watch those reactions that she has with the camera that's on her, that she's got in her little area right there. Yeah.
That's so cool.
She does a really good job.
It's
And
passion. I love seeing passion with it.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that just go through the motions, man, but she's good at what she does, and then she's having fun while she does it, and it's pretty cool.
So we like to do Mount Rushmores, not just Mount Rushmores of wrestlers. We like to do Mount Rushmores of other things that's going on in wrestling or what's happened in wrestling. So a couple of them that I'd like to hear from you. First one I would like to hear from you is, who is your actual Mount Rushmore of wrestlers? Like who's your 4?
4 wrestlers all time?
Yeah, all time.
Okay. Now, this is a tough one because I'm a big promo guy. I'm a big straight to camera guy. I'm not the in-ring technician guy, so I'll throw that disclaimer out there. And so, with that said, and, you know, I was born in 84. So, all these people that are going to say, what about Bret Hart? What about, you know, whatever. There's your disclaimer. My Mount Rushmore, and I have not prepared for this, but I'm going to go for it. And I'm going to say, I'm going to keep it real. First of all, like you said, Ole Anderson. No, I'm kidding.
What the hell? How's Antonio? I was about to hit you with a chair, man.
I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
Hey man, it's a real simple.
It is. So it's, you know, the people that hit me the most: Ric Flair, The Undertaker, The Rock, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. I love Hogan. I get it. And when I was the tiniest of little kids, Hogan was my original gateway in. Like when I was literally 3 or 4 and I'm like, goo goo gaga, what's that? Like, but as soon as I became like anything, I was always about the heels. Still to this day.
I'm the same way. I was a heels guy when I was a kid.
So those are my big 4, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the ones that I've listened to those 4 guys talk more than I've listened to my own father, my brothers. Like it's like it's. If we were to compile the hours, again, it's just me with a TV tray. Because again, I'm the youngest of 5, but I'm the youngest of 5 by 12 years.
Right.
So when I was 5, my closest brother was in Columbus going to college at Ohio State. So I had the whole, you know, little garbage house to myself. So I was just trying to entertain myself. No dad living with us. So like these giant men were larger than life. It was like some form of testosterone in the household. And so it was all super, super influential and unbelievably entertaining to me. But yeah, it was the funny people and the darkness and the, you know, that's what hit me. It wasn't that big. You know, I liked DX. I should have been a bigger DX fan for what it was. Like, suck it. But I kind of saw like the immaturity of it wasn't that impressive to me. I remember the grade underneath me all being DX people, and the grade underneath them all being DX people. There's a certain psychology of ages.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and us 84 kids pretty much like agree across the boards on these things. You know,
I was born in '83. I'm not a big DX guy. I'm a huge Triple H fan. I'm a huge Shawn Michaels fan.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
I individually, I really like these guys. Together as that group, I wasn't.
That moonsault into the tombstone. I mean, ridiculous. You must
Only
hear it
did it
every
once.
day. But oh my
Only
god.
did it once.
Oh my god.
We practiced, never could get it, and we just do it. We'll do it tomorrow. And we did it.
Really?
Yeah. We tried it 3 times the night before. I missed him every time. We did it.
Whoa.
We did it in the show, and perfect.
Wow. Oh my god. That is so cool.
Yeah, that is good stuff. So Mark, this is for you as well. You guys can combine on this. You can come together to build this.
Together.
He loves to sing. Mount Rushmore of wrestling moments that really, because there's 2 that pop in my head that really like changed, I think, wrestling. And the 2 that I have is Hogan beating Andre.
Slamming Andre.
Yeah, slamming Andre. Yeah. And then Hogan turning heel. And you can say what you want. I just feel like that night is what made the Monday Night Wars what they were.
The Mount Rushmore of moments.
Of moments in wrestling history.
Yeah. You have to think, I think like you do, like you just can't think of, you have to put it in criteria. Like that was my original Mount Rushmore, the influence that my Mount Rushmore wrestlers had on the industry. That's how I put mine together. I'll start with Andre being slammed by Hogan.
Okay.
It's a moment. The Austin 316 promo.
Yep. Oh,
Changed
absolutely.
Huge.
Rock and Hogan meeting in the ring for the first time before their WrestleMania, where they just stared and looked at each other. And I think the streak getting broke.
Yeah.
Those are. That's what I got.
That's great. Great analysis. When I did just like I did Rogan with you and with Ric Flair and with Jake the Snake, I also did it with Hogan. And I made him, again, because Joe's thing with pro wrestling is, wow, they put their bodies through a lot. They're unbelievable athletes. I don't really get it.
Right.
Like, it's his thing. But I go, Joe, you need to see what it's like when Hogan and The Rock face off. And one of my favorite things is getting to turn the serious people. You see a glimmer in their eyes. They're just like, whoa. And it, you know, it was very cool. We played it on the show, which is like a, you know, it's like a, you know, it's a special thing to get to shoehorn something in there. Like a Joe, you gotta see this means it has to be good.
Right.
You know? And yeah, that was so cool. And yeah, we've covered all 4 of those moments except for Austin 316 on his show. Because I remember him seeing the reactions to your streak being broken on one of the ones that I did with him as well. I don't know if it was the one that you were on, but we very rarely roll video of pro wrestling, even if we're talking about it or this or that. Only the very best stuff. And, but yeah, man. Wild that all 4 of those. Stone Cold's thing. What year was that?
That was 90.
King of the Ring.
98, right after King of the Ring. Yeah. I think he just wrestled Bret Hart. They had that just killer match. And he came out the next night with Austin 316. He thought he just kicked your ass.
Yeah.
And we were off. We were off and running because we'd been getting our asses handed to us for weeks and months at that point. But you know, when the Monday Night Wars, that was kind of the.
You don't put Hogan turning heel in there, huh?
Nah.
Where do you put that, Tony?
You mean NWO?
Yeah, when he turned. I mean, this is when he turned heel for the first time, or the only time, really. I guess.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just a different type of person, and I get it. A lot of my wrestling buddies, they add a lot of WCW stuff to this list and that list and things like that. But I mean, again, other than the unbelievably comedic. I mean, it's their doofy decisions that stand out to me as like unbelievable. Like again, Goldberg giving that away. Just here you go. Well, we're gonna win every Monday after this because we're giving this away. So we're telling them anything can happen on a Monday, but it's like no, you just gave away the money shot.
All the money right there.
Oh my God. I just can't put WCW stuff. And again, the NWO was cool, you know. I'm 14 or whatever. That period of time should have hit me like a ton of bricks. But again, I always look at the little things, the little details, like, you know.
Kevin Nash said it best.
Virgil's in it.
That's what I was about to say. By the end of it, like, there was like only 2 or 3 people that weren't NWO.
Well, what ended up happening that they screwed the pooch on that, right? Like, but you know, Kevin Nash. I mean, like everybody in the place was part of NWO, and it became something that was just stupid. The very beginning of it, it was really cool. It was like, you know, that was the reason why they were able to end up beating WWF there for a while. Right. But you know, Kevin Nash has gone on record by saying, he goes, you know, we come in there and that first night, and you got 2 dudes that are from the other product, and we beat up your entire locker room with just 2 of us and a baseball bat. And he goes, you essentially hurt yourself by doing that. You just said that nobody in your locker room
could take anybody
can take us 2, which this whole thing is supposed to be. The outsiders are WWE's invading WCW.
Right.
He goes, and we beat up your entire locker room the first night. He goes, and Kevin Nash said, he goes, y'all are never going to beat Vince.
Right. Yeah, that's a brilliant point. I never even thought of it that way. I'm looking back at it, whatever, 30 years later, like, oh yeah.
Booking ain't easy.
Yeah.
No, it ain't. It's not. I mean, to make things, to clear up, you know, holes and, you know, things that you don't think about. Like you said, you do, I never look at it that way.
Yeah. You have to do it week after week. So even if you have something that works once, they're waiting next week. So it's like, whoa.
I think that writer's job, that has to be is that the hardest job in wrestling?
I mean, that you don't have. I don't know.
Without having to get in the ring.
I don't know. Our riggers and stuff like that have a hard job, but I'm talking about stress. And it's not so much now, but when the big man was still there, that was a highly stressful job and a very short-lived for most. I mean, there was a pretty high turnover rate.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, people would just quit because they couldn't handle the pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just.
And to have your ideas that, I can tell you as a writer, I've written for a lot of things where other people are executing what you've written. And when you believe in it and then it gets thrown out at the last minute, that's devastating.
Oh, yeah.
It makes you feel like you're worth nothing. And this thing that you envisioned, you'd almost do it for free if you felt like you were making a change and people were enjoying your work. So like money doesn't save it when your creativity goes to waste.
Yeah.
That's the hard part, is the script being thrown out an hour before the show and rewrite it. Like that part.
There were several times I know with me where this is something you just had to accept being in the WWE in those early days. Is like you might, we spent hours and hours and hours on the road driving from one town to, and that's where a lot of good creative happened. You're drinking beer and you're talking, and everybody's kind of snowballing and ideas. But then
a lot of snow.
Well, you just.
He's throwing you under the bus over
Not
there.
you, not you. Your friends.
I was mainlining. No, but have ideas and storylines, and you pitch it for yourself, and it goes, that's really good, and then give it to somebody else.
Oh yeah.
Those were man. I took a couple of gut shots and stuff that I had like worked and just detailed after, and it was like, God damn, that's awesome. I'm gonna give it to someone. And I'm like, no, that was for me. He goes, nah, doesn't work for you. But this is gonna be great. And I was like,
Do you remember a good one that was executed that we might remember?
No, I think I burn them out of my brain.
Right.
Just
compartmentalize. I get that.
Yeah.
We were just talking about that last night, about a couple terrible auditions that I had, and I can't remember a lot about them from back in the day.
Yeah.
Because I literally just ship them off.
You got to
down the chocolate factory to be able to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Short memory.
Short memory.
Yeah.
It's getting shorter all the time, as we found out.
So, Mark, we've done some Mount Rushmores of wrestling. Since we have Tony here, what's your Mount Rushmore of comedians? I mean, you are I know you're a savant. And I'd like to hear yours as well.
Savant.
It's out of control.
I Googled.
Did you figure out what that? Give me the definition of savant.
Somebody that knows about wine.
Somebody that knows about wine is a savant.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure. Dinner tonight, I'm gonna hopefully a savant will tell me which.
Recommend a good wine.
Yeah, I can recommend a good wine. And I'd like to hear yours too, Tony. Who's your Mount Rushmore of comedians?
Gosh.
I mean, this is easy as well. I mean, there's one that is on everybody's.
There's the one.
Yeah, Sinbad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, you get Pryor on there.
You have to have Ole Anderson on there.
Yes, Ole has to be. Ole has to be on that. Yeah.
I love how you keep bringing up Ole too.
Yeah,
You told him he could never.
He's the one that
Nobody
told
would
me.
ever pay to watch him
And I'm
wrestle.
trying to be nice because Ole just passed away.
Yes, we're not
Oh,
going to
he
talk.
did?
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
didn't
Him
know
and
that.
Virgil. Him and Virgil both.
They just passed
Back to
away,
back
but he was the
days.
one. Yeah, Ole's the one that told me that no one would ever pay money to see me wrestle.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. We're going to put a picture of him on the shelf. But
I have a couple of those in the comedy world. They're pumping gas in upstate New York right now. I'm not even
Exactly.
kidding.
Man, I like Chappelle. I mean, you got.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Man,
That's where I met you. I met you at
Yep.
Stubbs at a Chappelle show.
Yeah.
I remember his manager coming over because he knew I was a wrestling fan, and he goes, "Look over there," and god damn, that was a starstruck moment. It's interesting 'cause people are, you know, living in LA for almost 20 years. You see all these people, but no one's literally like larger than life. You know what I mean? And then there's you amongst a bunch of nerdy stand-up fans, just blatantly, just literally a half a body taller than everybody else. All these executives and everybody just trying to weasel their way towards Chappelle.
And I'll say,
Who let the freak in?
Yeah, I will say, you know, I echo that statement because I work with a lot of different celebrities, country singers and whatever, and even social media people and everything else that are, I guess, quote unquote celebrities. But he's the only one. Like, I just went to a huge thing in Vegas back in January, and I'm at an event where like Liver King is there, and there's just all these big celebrities that are there and stuff.
Right.
And what's the question that I'm getting from everybody? Hey, where's Undertaker?
Yeah.
Hey, how's Undertaker doing?
Oh, yeah.
Hey, where's Mark at?
Liver King can suck it.
All right. That's
All right.
yeah. You should have listened to Hulk Hogan, man. Just take your vitamins and say your prayers.
Yeah. Well, that was the problem. There was too many vitamins.
Yes, too many vitamins. Who's on your Mount Rushmore, Tony, comedians?
Well, we're matched up. Definitely those two. Mine's a little tricky because it's weird, right? Because again, it's different eras, different ages. So like, Jim Carrey affected my childhood so deeply. I mean, from In Living Color to Ace Ventura to, oh God, what the hell? Yeah, everything. But especially when he did Man on the Moon, where he played Andy Kaufman. I was in 8th grade, about to be a freshman in high school. And it was like, I didn't know anything about Andy Kaufman, and I was expecting it to be this funny movie, this really silly movie, because I knew he was playing this comedian. That's all I knew. And it ended up being, of course, dark and kind of like creepy. And so I bought all the way into it. And so we'll throw Jim Carrey at number 3, and, you know, it's crazy. It's an impossible thing for me. I mean, I could throw David Letterman in there. I could throw Shane Gillis in there right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's killing it.
He's a monster. I have to go up after him all the time now. We just convinced him to move to Austin, and now I have to follow his ass. And I love it, though. He's the best, the most fun hang. But yeah, Louis, you name it. They're all there. They're all
Norm.
It's hard.
Norm Macdonald
God.
for me is on. He's on mine.
It's hard to pick 4 in comedy.
Yeah. We usually do fan questions, like 3 fan questions, and I want to give that responsibility to you. Like, do you have? It could just be one question, or it could be 3 questions that you've